The thing that really springs to mind when we think about doing is just remembering this quality of the brain called neuroplasticity. What that basically means is that the brain changes in response to what we do. Now, we have neuroplasticity throughout our whole life, but a young brain is particularly plastic. Have this kind of developmental plasticity until our mid-20s. I heard it described as the difference between remodeling a house and redecorating, which is actually quite nice. Children are remodeling, we're just redecorating. But the way in which we tell our brain how to change is what we do. So what we spend our time doing, and also where we give our attention. But I think that's important, just to remember that our brain is adapting and changing all the time in relation to what we're doing. And a nice example, if you think about what happens when you break something and you kind of put your leg in a plaster, the brain very quickly will forget those, they will kind of lose those neurons, it prunes them back, because it says, I don't need those connections for the environment in which I'm living.
Do something different instead of the same?
Yeah, it'll use a resource for something else. So the brain is adapting and changing all the time. So thinking about what we're doing is really, really important. The other thing I think is really important and helpful to think about is the fact that brains are pattern makers. And I think we have an idea in our society that willpower is the most effective way to go and make long-term change. Surely it is. But actually it isn't true. There's some amazing data that shows that habits account for about 43% of our behaviours. So habits are just cognitive associations that we form when we repeat actions. So being aware of trying to direct young people towards making good habits, and being aware of bad habits that they have developed, and also how hard it is to change those bad habits. And Ron Dahl, who is an expert in the teenage brain, he talks about this inflection point just before the teenage years, maybe around the age 8 to 11, when there is this possibility to set up really good habits to set young people on kind of a positive long-term trajectory. And I think when we're talking about habits, we're talking about sleep, diet and exercise, but also other kinds of habits in terms of emotional regulation, a habit in terms of what do I do when I come to a maths question that I really struggle with? What is my habit? Because we do get very caught up in those patterns of behaviour.